It was horrible. I would take a nap on my way into work. I'd stop for a 20-minute nap. On my lunch break, I'd take a nap. On my way home, I'd take a nap. I'd get home and I'd take a nap. I'd get to the gym. I'd work out for 10 minutes and I'd lay down on the floor. That's how I also fully believe in your product line. I mean, there's no doubt about it. I mean, there's just unbelievable what it's done for me and the people that we love.
So today, I wanted to sit down with Kelly McGary and hear her story with Upgraded, which I never get tired of hearing as a founder. This is why I do it.
Yes,
so
absolutely.
So yeah, if you could, can you tell us a little bit, maybe how we met?
Sure.
And then at some point we'll get into before and after, and how you feel now.
Sure. So I was working for an LED company, and we were doing an event down in San Antonio for the HEB diversity training. So when I was at the event and we were kind of wrapping up, I happened to walk by a booth, and Barton was standing there and come over and start talking to you and explaining kind of, you know, what I had been experiencing. You told me a little bit about the product and the basis behind it. And at that point, yes, you offered me a bottle and told me to call you in about 2 weeks, and you knew that I would most likely have a heck of a impact, noticeable difference. And I have got to tell you, I was so excited to get home and try it. I got home that night and took 2 capfuls like you recommended. That night I had some of the soundest sleep I could remember. I mean, the fatigue has been plaguing me for probably 5 or 6 years.
Wow.
And and it had just become kind of my norm. I figured, you know, I was just always going to have horrible sleep and all that stuff. So I was so thrilled. Yeah, I don't know that I even waited 48 hours to contact you, but it was a night and day difference. It absolutely was. There is no doubt, and I've continued to take it daily and talk about it to everybody that I come across. Yes.
Thank you so much for that. What most people really, for some reason, they really come back to life is magnesium, because it's, you know, supporting up to 800 essential functions in the body. So yeah, I was excited to hear from you and get that. So
oh yeah,
and
it's just continued to improve. I mean, once I had such a huge impactful change, me being me, I also start looking stuff up, right? And it was like, oh my gosh, this totally makes sense. I mean, I've been to numerous doctors, you know, like I said, acupuncturists, hypnosis. In my quest before I met you, I knew that there was something wrong with my adrenals.
Right.
And so I tried the ashwagandha root. I tried all these, you know, different other herbal supplements.
I did that too.
Yeah, and there would be like, I think you pointed it out. I think you put it the right way, that the teeter would just kind of come up and then it came down.
So this is why doing the hair analysis was such a key, and why it's a big part of Upgraded now is we like to test and not guess, because that particular thing could be essential for someone else, but you might have a sort of pattern displayed that you don't need that. In fact, you need the opposite.
Right.
So there's people I meet all the time that are taking things like calcium, and like they're paying certainly for a product that doesn't absorb that well, but they're also paying for something that they don't need because they're already high in it.
Right.
And then that's driving them into worse areas of health. So then of course they're going, well, I'm not getting what I feel like I should get from it. Magnesium's more of a safe bet because so many people are deficient, something like 80%, or I think it's probably higher.
Right.
Based on all the analyses I see.
I agree. I absolutely agree.
It's been great.
I will say that I wish I would have taken your advice and taken the hair test initially.
Yeah, sure.
Because I took it after I had been taking the magnesium for a little while. And so at that point it showed the magnesium levels being kind of about where they should be. But I know unequivocally that the magnesium brought it back around. So I would highly recommend, if somebody's watching this, to take the hair mineral test to see, especially in the beginning, because I really do think that would have been beneficial.
For sure. Yeah, I would love to have your before and after on that, because it was...
It was probably below.
If I could have found someone in the wild that had all the symptoms you had, I would have just given them their analysis for free.
I know.
Just so we could document the before and after, because it's probably just like off the chart.
I don't doubt that for a moment.
I had mine was like that. It just wasn't as severe. So then I finally brought it back, and I switched from a normal to this one, to upgraded. And the level, I was actually high in it after taking it for about 4 months. So that's why, like, depending, and because I probably also wasn't taking potassium at the time. I wasn't doing all the different things. So then it's rocketing up because it's not being counterbalanced by something else. That's ultimately what you want. You want that smooth level across the middle. But yeah, I remember for me, I felt 80% better when I fixed that one thing. It's just like anything else, you can't keep, you find that the hammer works really well, and you can't just continue hammering everything. I'm going to redecorate the wall with the hammer, and I'm going to fix the tire with the hammer. And, that's why I love, as much as someone really latches on to a product, and finds so much like energy salvation in it. It's essential also to just kind of keep. So I'm glad you got a test in. And
me too.
Got a chance to kind of. It's just like a correct course type thing. It'd be like if you're driving and never looking at the road except for when you got in the car.
Yeah. Having the blinders on.
So to have that is cool.
And there's been numerous other benefits other than being able to continue on my day without 4 or 5 different naps. And they, it subtly became just a longer and longer list. I mean, the hair loss, the brain fog, the ability to handle and deal with events that were happening in my life. I mean, I had gotten to the point where before I met Pat, I told him, you cannot stress me out. You absolutely cannot do anything to stress me out, because it would take me down for days. I would be in bed for 2 or 3 days, not even sleeping, just literally couldn't move. My body was so exhausted. And like right now, I mean, I have all these events going on, major life changes. Go on, Summers. Go see Pat. I have all these major life events going on. I mean, I quit my job. I'm starting a business.
Move now.
Yeah, I'm starting a business on my own. We're moving cross country. My house literally exploded a couple weeks before we left for out of the country for a vacation, and having to deal with all this stuff. And when I take a few minutes to kind of stop and reflect, I know without a doubt that it's not even been 6, 7, 8. Let's see, I guess it was August, September of last year. So we're talking 6 months. I know without a doubt 6, 7 months ago, I would be crumpled up in a ball. Anybody we talk to, almost everybody suffers from some kind of fatigue, right? And they just kind of factored in, and they're just getting old. It's not that big of a deal. It might be, I have a neck issue. It might be all these different things. And everybody that we've had try the magnesium has seen a difference. So to me, it just speaks volumes. And I've been taking the potassium, and I've been watching the sodium levels, and now I take the iodine, which I just absolutely, I feel so good now anyway that I'm like, pretty sure it's made me feel even better. I don't have the night and day list like I did with the magnesium, but absolutely believe in upgraded formulas.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Thanks for sitting down, and it's just been fantastic getting to know you too. That's the cool thing about meeting some of the customers, and then you guys have become friends now. And I mean, it's just why I started Upgraded. It's why I do what I do, and I just love it. So thank you for sharing.
Well, thank you. I mean, I don't know how or why. I'm not real big in fate and thinking all that stuff, but I will say that for whatever odd reason, I was supposed to be there that day, because I was at my wit's end. I didn't know what else I was going to. They had tested me for lupus. The ticker for the lupus was right on mark, and it was starting that whole process. And I was like, I know this can't be it. There's something else. There's something else. And so it's just been a huge relief to get me back, and to have my daughter's mom back, and my parents' daughter. I mean, there's
you've turned so many people
an employee,
onto it.
an employer. You name it. I have just he has a girlfriend that will actually go do stuff instead of wanting to lay in bed. I mean, stressful situation. I still am a little. You have years of kind of becoming very reclusive. I'm still working on that, and I think some of that has to do with the heavy metals. I'm working on getting my fillings removed, because the dentist said that absolutely is probably a huge part of anything else that's kind of lingering. So financially, that's the next step. But I will say that even my social anxiety has Pat can attest to that. How
And you're so outgoing, though.
Well, yeah,
but,
to a degree, but I've become extremely just like
because you're protecting energy, probably.
right.
Yeah,
Yeah, everything's
so
exhausting to me.
Yeah, even though you love, clearly, you know, seeing you out at a conference, you love interacting with people. You get a lot of energy from that. The thing is that I noticed though is that a similar sort of thing. Like your body will ultimately. That's why we say goodbye at the end of the night, because we feel worn out.
Right.
You know, a lot of us. It's more common, and you have like the courage to talk about it. Mm-hmm. There's so many people that are just out there looking for answers, and they don't feel like, maybe it's not supported in their family or their structure or whatever, for them to complain. That's a big thing. Right. So you also, it's difficult to ask for help. Mm-hmm. And also, you know, being an athlete, you kind of get used to listening to your body anyway. Mm-hmm. So I think, you know, you definitely have that. But yeah, it's just a mix of these different things you have to improve your health.
Right.
When it does eventually start to go downhill. And you know, the corrective measures are really the place, because I mean, if we don't step in and correct at these inflection points, then we just continue off in that direction.
Right.
And sometimes what we need is a U-turn. Mm-hmm. Other times we just need a gentle nudge right or left or something, you know, just kind of like merging the go in there state type thing. And that's, so I think it's super valuable to check in on your health, to have a tool to, you know, no matter how good any supplements are, I always say that, which is as someone who started the supplement company, did all the science and stuff, it's still, I will even say, you got to test, you got to know where you are every so often, just so that, and right now what we currently do is we step into a doctor's office if we're like most people, once a year, if we're lucky, right? And then they do this much of stuff. It's not their fault. It's just how everything's structured. Right. That's the system we have right now in healthcare, and to be able to take some of that control back and some of that freedom back, in the process of just going, you know what? Not only am I going to decide to take control of my health to a certain extent, I'm going to do something that actually gets me actionable feedback. I'm going to so that's where I was. I think that's where you were too, you know, and then that is a process. Mm-hmm. That isn't overnight. It isn't just, oh, well, great, I'm going to do something. So I'm going to Google, what am I going to do exactly? I'm going to pay thousands of dollars to people to check out my hormones, or like, where do I start? And I think offering this like lower entry point in terms of cost, but huge impact to people, is something that I'm super thrilled about. I think that's going to be a huge part of our business, because there's so much value we can give people there.
Well, anytime I talk to anybody about it too, you know, if they're kind of on the fence, and I know that mine was so extreme, and I had a huge night and day difference instantly, right? Sure. And I'm very clear with people that may or may not happen with you. I don't know, but I'll tell you what, it's probably the best $27 you're going to spend to find out. I tell them that. I'm like, it doesn't faze me in the least to pay that. And now there's the bigger bottle. I mean, we buy cases from him, so because it is something that absolutely, and we sell it to our friends if they're interested. You know, we have the little tester bottles and stuff, and we definitely share it with the people that we care, because he saw it, my daughter saw it, I know it. I mean, it was to know what I was going through with the medical field. My regular doctor, you know, he was putting me on these antidepressants, and then I couldn't sleep even more. So then he's giving me a sleeping one that has an antidepressant, and I was feeling weird. I wanted to get off him, and I told him, and he was like, well, you know, I think this is really what it is. And then they test for the lupus, and he's starting to talk about all this other medicine, and I just got so freaked out. And to know the path that they were going to be pushing me down, and I kept telling him, I know there's something else wrong. And what he told me, he said, Kelly, you need to take a break. You need to take some time off. And I was like, you don't understand. That's not an option. At the time, I'm 41. You know, I'm like, I don't need to be taking a break. I'm not in my 60s. I'm not in my 70s. Yes, do I have stress in my life? Yes, to a degree, but I'm not running a corporation with thousands of people. I don't have, you know, these really super high stress jobs. So yeah, stress is relative for sure, but I knew that the level of what I was experiencing did not equate with what was going on. Like I knew that. And so it was a huge freedom to be able to toss all the meds and all the thought process of lupus and having autoimmune and all these, because it's also self-defeating. When you believe that you have something like that, then there's certain things, oh, my elbow hurts because of lupus. Oh, not saying that people don't have issues, but a lot of it is very much internalized. So I really wasn't looking forward to that. And it was great to have this boost. I mean, this huge stepping stone in my life to be able to be me again, because it was.
But I never heard the backstory.
He messaged me and he was like, Kelly, does this stuff give you weird dreams? And I said, well, what are you talking about?
It gives you dreams.
He was like, I'm dreaming about stuff I haven't thought about in 50 years. Now, a little bit of extra backstory about my dad. His body, he doesn't sleep well. Yeah. So his body's never able really to rejuvenate. Yeah. He's never getting into a REM sleep. And I was like, Dad, I'm telling you, it's because you're getting a good night's sleep. Now,
I'm glad you told him that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's funny.
Yeah.
Some people do ask me like, oh yeah, like I get weird dreams. It's like, no, you just don't dream vividly.
Right.
Because you don't make enough melatonin.
Exactly.
Because you don't have enough magnesium.
And he's probably never getting into the cycles where he got into REM sleep, unfortunately enough.
So his mind's like, whoa, you still have to process this.
From 50 years ago.
Yeah, you haven't been sleeping in a while, man. So we're gonna just turn that on now. The movie theater's on.
Yeah.
Sorry.
And he messaged, and he's not a big texter, but he messaged me 4, 5, 6 days in a row telling me about the dreams, and he's never remembered his dreams because I don't think he really got into REM sleep in a very long time.
I bet. Yeah.
Unbelievable. Yeah. So that was pretty cool. He doesn't stick with stuff for very long, so unfortunately I'll try to prod him back into it again, but it was prolific for him for sure.
Incredible. What a great story. Wow. Well, thank you for sitting down.
What's that?
And I just love hearing your story, so I just want everyone to be able to hear it too.
Well, thank you very much. I'm glad to be able to share it. I'm glad to be able to have the story to tell.
Yeah.
It would have been a total different story about 6 months ago. There's no doubt. I would like to say that Pat and I would have made it through that, but it's pretty hard to deal with somebody who just wants to lay in bed all day and be grumpy.
I guess that's one last thing if you have time. I mean, talking about relationships, I know what you mean. It's a huge struggle in any case. Like, relationships can be difficult anyway, even if you're with your ideal person, and then to not have the energy if one of you or both of you don't have it,
right?
Which it's not always like, I think people get labeled as lazy if this goes on too long,
right? Which
no one wants that label, and you certainly couldn't be anything further from that. So, but when people are just like, well, yeah, I mean, she's in bed all the time, and like the weekends, what'd you guys do? Well, we just
played around,
didn't stayed in the house. And I because of my circle of friends being so I guess lucky, but also healthy and taking care of themselves, doing a lot of these protocols, I've kind of forgotten that world of and so every now and then I get reintroduced to it, and I hear a story or two like this, and I'm just like, yes, of course people need this. There's a lot of people that developed a new normal that's way down here, right? Yes,
I absolutely agree with that. And that was a frustrating part for me, is that I just refused to accept that was my normal. I mean, but that's what it was becoming. I mean, we're talking 5 or 6 years, and it had just gradually gotten worse to the point where it had just, for me, reached its apex. I've never been suicidal. I understood at the worst point at that time why somebody would take their life, because I knew that if this is what my life was going to be like, there was no point. Like, I didn't understand that, right? So like I said, I've never been suicidal, but it was just, I finally understood holy crap, I can get it. If somebody feels this way and they can't get out of it, there definitely is the thought process of why bother? Why keep going? I mean, I couldn't enjoy stuff.
Sleep's not fun. Nothing's fun.
I couldn't sleep. I mean, I couldn't go to my daughter's soccer games. I couldn't go to events. We used to go to music festivals. We used to do all these different things. And
I don't think I knew that part of it.
Yeah, it got to the point that it was just so brutal. And thankfully, I came across you and your product, and Pat has been a huge beneficial part of my life, and me being able to become a mom to her again and clear out my life. I mean, drinking, all these different things that I was just doing anything I could to just keep going and maintain.
Yeah, you just, all right, well, I'll get a jolt of, you start like approximating things where like, well, sugar will get me another hour or so, so I'm going to eat some sugar, because we're all just kind of guessing instead of like testing, seeing where we're at, and then fixing just what we need to fix, and then living life, and then, you know, checking in a couple months later and doing the same thing and making a course adjustment. And then, every now and then you have to make a big sweeping adjustment if you hadn't had that in a while. I think it's kind of, it's kind of amazing to think about how quickly things can correct.
Correct.
I know with talking to more and more patients as the business has grown, like just having these phone consultations where someone's bought the test, they're talking to me, and now they've taken their second test, and they've taken all the protocols or some of the protocols. And you know, to see the night and day, to hear it, even if I haven't met them, to hear it in their voice is kind of incredible. I bet
that really is.
So you hear, and then what's really cool is that you hear stories like, oh like now my whole family's taking this now, and it's been typically about upgraded magnesium, but upgraded glucose too, because there's been a lot of people that have type 2 diabetes, and it's such a struggle. And it's not something you're born with. It is absolutely reversible through diet, through health. But it's only going to get reversed if your body gets what it needs, and as much of it as it needs, and less of what it doesn't need. And so like to be able to play a part in that has been super cool. I bet it is.
I definitely bet it is. I mean, there's, like I said, the few people that we've introduced it to, and they have had a noticeable difference also, you know, whether or not they were as extreme as I was. That's how I also fully believe in your product line. I mean, there's no doubt about it. I mean, there's just unbelievable what it's done for me and the people that we love.
Thank you so much. Well, thanks.
And then powered with great nutrition and kind of getting our lives back. I mean, I feel like a whole. Am I turning 43 this year? I think it's 43, right? Isn't that what we talked about? Yeah. So I'm turning 43 this year. 2 years ago, I wouldn't have felt this good. So awesome. So it's really nice to be able to get my life back and to feel great, and to be able to explore and do things, and even have the balls to move halfway across the country.
It's huge. It takes courage, and courage takes energy.
It does.
That's what I say.
There's no way I would have been able to leave these walls if it hadn't turned around. I don't doubt that at all.
Love it. Love it. Thank you so much for coming on. All right. Well, hope you guys enjoyed that. And thank you, Kelly, for sitting down so much. That was fantastic.
Well, thank you very much.
Yeah.